kathamritam tapta jivanam kavibhiriritam kalmashapaham Sravanamangalam Srimadaatatam Bhuvi Grananti Ye Bhurida Jana. So the master with the devotees. So master's first meeting with Adhar. So that's the section which we are going to discuss today, read today and discuss today. Adhar's first visit. The master enjoyed a nap after his afternoon meal. Adhar and other devotees gradually gathered. This was Adhar's first visit. He was a deputy magistrate and about 30 years old. Adhar to the master. Sir, I have a question to ask. Is it good to sacrifice animals before the deity? It certainly involves killing. Master. The Shastra prescribes sacrifice on special occasions. Such sacrifice is not harmful. Take for instance the sacrifice of a goat on the 8th day of the full or new moon. So, here one very controversial, we will say, a topic has been brought into the discussion. That we find that in Hinduism we do have certain sections, not all, certain denominations in Hinduism, the Shaktas, where we find that they sacrifice the animals before the deity. And now we find there's a lot of condemnation against such sacrifices, that it's an act of cruelty. And naturally, we find that again and again this question arises whether such rituals which entails in the sacrifice of animals is justified or not. But here we find the master is in as if in the support of the sacrifice. What he's saying, the Shastra prescribes sacrifice on special occasions. We won't say support, he is just quoting the scriptures, that yes, in our scriptures they do have some such prescriptions where sacrifice is permitted. Such sacrifice is not harmful. Take for instance the sacrifice of a goat on the 8th day of the full or new moon. Now, this sacrifice of animals in front of the deity, is this justified or not? In any way this killing, and we find that always there's a lot of condemnation against it. Then why the Shastras prescribed such sacrifices? Now, very interesting that spirituality cannot be enforced to the mass in general. That we cannot say that for leading a spiritual life, you have to renounce so many things, including cruelty against animals. These prescriptions are there, that yes, we should avoid cruelty, that non-violence is the highest ideal in spirituality. But the question comes, if someone cannot renounce, that they have an inclination because of the background in which they are born, or because of the type of work they do, and all those things taken into account, there may be a situation where we find that it is very difficult for a person to renounce this non-vegetarian diet. They have to have something of this non-vegetarian, which entails killing of animals. Now, the question is spirituality not for them in any way? That either you renounce everything and then only you can come to spirituality, otherwise spirituality is not for you. The entire spiritual world, spiritual realm is something which is not for you. So here we find that the scriptures, they came down to the level of each and every person. And instead of enforcing renunciation, what they did was they tried to sublimate. Instead of forcefully subjugating our inclinations, they tried to sublimate them and gradually convert our instincts, all those instinctual tendencies, into something which is spiritual. So that was the basic intention behind all these prescriptions, all these vidhis. That the one who cannot renounce the eating of flesh, that it's not actually a license that you sacrifice and have the meat. See, he will find what Guru Maharaj is saying is something very interesting. That, for instance, sacrifice of a goat on the 8th day of the full or new moon. So what you have done? First, yes, that it is not possible for you to renounce, but you can restrict. Not every day. On some special occasions, you can sacrifice an animal in front of the deity. So there's a restriction, and not all type of animals. See here, the sacrifice of a goat. Compare it with the market here. In the West, we find when there is a sacrifice in front of the deity, there is a huge condemnation. But we forget, in the slaughterhouse, every day millions of animals are killed, and that also varieties of animals. All sorts of meat you get in the market. Any day, any time. So now you find that the entire society was restricted. We had a society where it was restricted, not every day. You just cannot go on indiscriminately killing all animals. Only specific animals. As Sri Ramakrishna is indicating, a goat. And that also on specific days, on the 8th day of the full moon or on the new moon, on the Ashtami. Not on any other day. So that is what is happening. Your first is restriction. And then another interesting thing is there. That you cannot resort to flesh eating without offering it to the deity. Just nowadays I can go to the market and anyone can buy meat and have it. It was not allowed in that Vedic society, in that society. That what? Only after offering to the divine on a specific day, and that also a particular type of animal, then you can have it as a consecrated offering, consecrated food. So what has happened? My inclinations are restricted. I cannot have indiscriminately any day, any type of meat any day. It is restricted. And that too, there is a scope of sublimating it. That just I am not resorting to greed. I offer it to the divine. After that, I take it as a consecrated food. So my inclinations, my instinctual inclinations are gradually getting sublimated into devotion. That Instead of taking the meat out of greed, when I'm taking it, it's a thing I like. But now there's the person who is resorting to it, what he's doing? He's taking it as the prasada. If devotional factors come into the picture, he feels that yes, it is a consecrated food, and then it has been offered to the divine. In our scriptures, for all the ritualistic worship stands on two pillars. One of the pillar is Devang Bhutva Devang Yajet. That when you are worshipping the divine, you have to think yourself that you are the divine. Devang Bhutva Devang Yajet. That entails in internalizing of all the spiritual values within yourself. Devang Bhutva Devang. That speaks, as even in the Bible, the same word is said in a different language. What's that? Worship the Spirit by the Spirit. So don't think yourself as just a mere conglomeration of flesh and bones. You are the pure Spirit. This body is enshrining that Spirit. And that's the Spirit which is communing, which is in communion with the Paramatman, the Supreme God. So they have that idea. So that's Devang Bhutva, Devang. That's one pillar. All the worship, all our rituals are based on that one. And another is this very interesting, that is called, what you like, that's the thing you offer. The exact aphorism, I'm not exactly recollecting, that whatever, Atmavat Deva Sevanam. Atmavat, these are the two pillars. Atmavat Deva Sevanam and Devang Bhutva Devang Yajet. Atmavat Deva Sevanam. What is that? That whatever I like, that's the thing I should offer to the divine. Atmavat. That in the season, the first mango came. I can go buy the mango and immediately I can eat the mango. And that way I can satiate my desire. And the scripture is what is saying here, the Shastra, that yes, you eat the mango, not directly. You buy it. While buying it, buy it with the idea that I am purchasing it for offering it to the divine. I'm just, it is being purchased for offering it to the divine, so I buy it and after returning to my home, I offer it in the altar to the deity, and after that I have it as prasadam. So what has happened? Instead of resorting to my greed, the greed has now got sublimated into devotion. So Atmavat Deva Sevanam. So the scripture says very interesting thing, that you need not, if you find it's very difficult for you to renounce, why not offer everything? That was the special branch of Tantra. Whatever you like, offer it to the divine and then have it. And then you will find that the thing which you like is gradually being sublimated into devotion. So these are the things we should remember. See, that's why, wherever there is a worship of the Devi. Now, why especially the Devi, not the gods, but the goddesses? We find the Shaktis, where all sorts of offerings are there. You won't offer such non-veg food to Shiva or to Vishnu, but to the mother we offer. Why? Because even in our day-to-day life, we will find that father's love can be hierarchical. That father, the most able child, he has some partiality towards him. Maybe it may be there. But the mother's love is non-hierarchical. She loves all the children in the same fashion. Sometimes it is the wayward child for whom the mother's love is more. So that's the mother's. Mother's love is very universal. So now, if I say that those who are resorting to flesh eating, for them the divine is not there, How can it be? That's why divine has been conceived as mother. The mother can never leaves out any children. For all she is there. And that's why a wonderful tradition has been devised that the mother is there for all. She accepts the offering in whatever form you may give, and that will be consecrated by the divine, and you can have it as a consecrated offering of the divine. And that way you can raise in devotion. So you will find in the Durga Puja, it's a wonderful thing that mother is for all. That's why Durga Puja is called Sarvajanin. The one who is doing the puja, the pujari, the main pujari, he is supposed to be very sattvic. For all the days of the puja, till the puja is over, he is fasting. At the end of the puja, he will have only boiled vegetables and boiled cereals, rice, legumes, the dals, everything boiled, not cooked. Just they offer, it's called Havishan, only with little ghee. That's the only food they have for all the days of worship. And during the worship, it is for hours they will be sitting in one sit, in one asana, with their worship, chanting mantras, meditating. It's pure sattvic. Now, in the Durga Puja, at the time of the Sandhi Puja, there is a prescription for the sacrifice in front of the mother. Very interesting. It's not the pujari who will be executing that sacrifice. That time pujari is not in the picture. Suddenly you will find some other person has came to that picture. As per our temperament, as per our tendency, the pujari is not supposed to do the sacrifice. He is sattvic. Those who are of that temperament, the tamasic temperament, eating meat, suddenly they will appear with lot of this, noise and lot of chanting. The sacrifice will be done by a different person, by a different group of people. They will move out. For the rich, those who want to show their splendor, for them also, Sarvashopachar Puja is there, that you can offer so many things to the mother. Mother accepts all. So that the Rajasic tendency, that also is okay. At the time of immersion, that during the puja, no one was allowed to be near the deity. At the time of immersion, suddenly you will find what has happened. All are allowed. Everyone comes and they will offer sweets, put vermilion on the mother, and when the mother is taken for immersion, there will be dancing and all sorts of vulgar songs are allowed. Why? It is called that at the time of immersion, it is like the culture, all the practices should be like the Shavara. There is the tribes. Just as the tribals celebrate, same way the celebration should go on at the time of immersion. Why? So now, even these people who don't have that high spiritual culture, still they want to relate themselves with the mother. They can relate. At the time of immersion, they come. So you'll find that all can relate to the mother, not by renouncing and trying to become sattvic. You cannot force that. Whatever you are, with that, mother is going to accept you, and that's how all our inclinations are getting sublimated, and gradually we rise in devotion. So all these prescriptions are not license. The one who is already sattvic, the one who is doing the main puja, he need not resort to flesh eating. He need not do the sacrifice. No. He has already cleansed himself. For him it is not meant. So it is not a license. It is just a prescription for helping all to raise in devotion. That we say that if a child doesn't know that what is good, what is bad, what is hygienic, what is not hygienic. Sometimes playfully the child may get down in the gutter, in some dirty place. then what? Mother will say, I banish you. Mother cannot say. Mother's love is for all. If the child gets down in the gutter, the mother has to come down to the gutter to pick him up. And that's what the mother does. She takes the form of all this tamasic, rajasic, everything, so that she can come down, pick up her children in wherever they are, cleanse them, and raise them in devotion. So that way it was all inclusive. In society you will find that if you say someone that there is no hope for you, they are the one who become this hardcore criminals. When this frustration is there, that's why no one accepts me in the society. From the utter frustration, and not only that, lack of respect, lack of sense of belongingness, they tend to become hardcore criminals. So, don't separate them. So in Durga Puja, we will find this wonderful thing, that for mother's worship, Mahasnana, so many things are required. You will be asked, you also most probably know, you will be astonished to know that for making the image of the mother, they have to get the soil from the place of ill repute where the prostitutes stay. It's the same reason. The mother is for all. That everything, no one, that how it helps. So when you take the soil from there, the one who knows this, that when we are passing by a place of ill repute, what comes? A sense of hatred may come. A sense of that tremendous hatred. That these are the section of the society which is evil, like that we may think. So here you are sublimating. When after the worship, when you are passing through the place of ill repute, the idea will come that, that the soil is used for making the image of the mother. So your entire vision gets deified. You start seeing the divine everywhere. And that's what is the truth. It is the God who has become everything. And the scriptures has prescribed a way by which we can really see the divine everywhere. Instead of developing hatred, instead of developing that all sorts of barriers, we can encapsulate the entire world with our love. We can just accept all with our love by sublimating, by deifying. And that's the idea behind all these sorts of prescriptions. So that's why we find that Sri Ramakrishna is not in any way condemning that. He says, yes, the scripture, the Shastra, if I say that it is bad, I will be denying our own scriptures. That's what it happens when we try to brand Hinduism by such that it is totally vegetarianism and all, and try to and show it to the world. It is a type of hypocrisy. We are conscious liars. Knowingly we are lying, that yes, these are there, but we try to hide them. Know the reason behind that. There is no need for lying. There is a wonderful idea behind that, where no one is rejected. Everyone is accepted. With all his negativities we are accepting. Why? Not to encourage the negativities. To find a way out that from the negativities that we can sublime them, and that gets converted into some positive aspects in our life. That's all inclusiveness. So that's the thing which we find in these wonderful words of Sri Ramakrishna. The Shastra prescribes sacrifice on special occasions. Such sacrifice is not harmful. Take, for instance, the sacrifice of a goat on the 8th day of the full or new moon. So as we were saying, that this prescription is there, but it is not for all. If you find that you have the sattvic temperament, that doesn't mean it is you have to practice that. You can simply ignore it. But at the same time, you shouldn't say that this is something which is evil. It is required by certain section of our society, and it do help them. So now Sri Ramakrishna is indicating that by his own words. What he's saying, I am now in such a state of mind that I cannot watch a sacrifice. I see. First he said it is prescribed. But he is now speaking of his own temperament, that he has, as being spiritually evolved, just watching the killing of an animal is impossible for him. So he's saying, I cannot watch. Also, I cannot eat meat offered to the Divine Mother. But at the same time, to accept it, that yes, these things are in the scriptures and it shouldn't be condemned. So the next line is very interesting. What he's saying, therefore, I first touch my finger to it, then to my head, lest she should be angry with me. It's wonderful that Avatara never comes to destroy. They come to fulfill. It's a word in the Bible. The same thing we find in our scriptures too. They never come to destroy. They come to fulfill. They try to, that the scriptures have all these instructions. Through their life, they highlight them and bring out the real meaning of them by practicing the religion in their day-to-day life in an all-inclusive manner. So yes, see how? So that he cannot eat meat, he cannot watch sacrifice, but at the same time, that as a matter of acceptance, what he's doing, he touches, he doesn't condemn it, touches and puts it on his head. So that's the idea which we find wonderfully has been described by Sri Ramakrishna. Again, in a certain state of mind, I see God in all beings, even in an ant. At that time, if I see a living being die, I find consolation in the thought that it is the death of the body, the soul being beyond life and death. It's very interesting that we may think that, oh, we try to justify that the killing of animal is after all killing of the body, not of the soul, and that way we can resort to killing of animals. No, it's not in that sense. What he's saying, that first he's speaking of the vidhis and the nishedas that he has spoken of. Now he's speaking of altered state of consciousness. When you have really raised to that height of spirituality at a certain state from where you find that after all, nothing is killed. What's that idea? That all the ideas of do's and don'ts are from our ordinary level of consciousness. But from the level of an uplifted consciousness, the do's and don'ts are no more effective. In the words of Swami Vivekananda, in one place, in his lecture, he's saying a very nice thing. The two puppies are fighting, and the mother dog is lazily lying at a distance, just watching. For the puppies, it is a very serious fight. They think that I will just simply get rid of the other, kill other. So that's how they're fighting. So full of vengeance. Mother dog is lying at a distance without reacting, knowing it is all just childish play. So from that level of that awareness, it is just childish play. She is not reacting in any way. Though from here it is something, a very, very serious fight. We know that sometimes children fight so seriously, but the parents don't take it seriously. They know it's all childish prank. Nothing to be taken seriously. So, from a certain state of mind, not that he's not saying that it is something which all should think that way. When in spiritual life you go to such the altered state of consciousness, in a higher state of consciousness, from that I see God in all beings, even in an ant. At that time, if I see a living being die, I find consolation in the thought that it is the death of the body, the soul being beyond life and death. The same thing appears differently from the altered state of consciousness. One should not reason too much. It is enough if one loves the lotus feet of the mother. Too much reasoning throws the mind into confusion. So after saying all those things, Sri Ramakrishna is now, as a conclusion, saying to Adhar that don't bother your head with all these things and create confusion, because it is not possible to comprehend many things from ordinary level of awareness. From the ordinary, just by looking at this sacrifice and all, immediately I may feel, oh, it has to be stopped. Why such practices still go on? And I can create a huge turmoil and noise by saying that the one who resorts to this practice cannot be spiritual, as if that person alone have that holier than thou attitude, with that holier than thou attitude, as if entire spirituality that person have understood, and the entire world is now going to the dogs. He alone is there who is the holy person. It's full of ego. With that, when a person starts judging the world that way, it speaks of nothing but the ego of that person. And spirituality cannot be there where this ego is. So from this level of awareness, without understanding the thing in its totality, just to create a confusion by just arguing is of no use. What's the needed is develop devotion. Devotion to the God in whatever state you may be. If you are sattvic, well and good, you have a sattvic devotion. If you are rajasic, well and good. With all your rajasic temperament, still you can be devoted to the mother. If you are tamasic, with all your tamasic propensity, still you can be a devotee. And when you are a devotee, then all these gunas gradually sublimates at last to purify you, to overhaul your personality and lead you to spiritual emancipation. So that's why what is, instead of just simply going on judging what is good, what is bad, go try to develop the devotion. That devotion, the love for the lotus feet of the mother. Too much reasoning throws the mind in confusion. You get clear water if you drink from the surface of a pool. Put your hand deeper and stir the water and it becomes muddy. Therefore, pray to God for devotion. Very interesting. That you will find that when the mind is calm, the love is something which is natural to us. We don't have to cultivate love. See, the mother's love for the child. Does the mother has to cultivate that love? No, it is already there. But sometimes, even in the present society, we find that the mother can be also extremely cruel. There are so many instances that we get shocked that the mother has innate love for the child. Such mother, there are instances where they're resorting to all sorts of cruelty. And as a reason, you will find what? If you really try to find out what has happened, you will find that the mind of the mother, for whatever may be the reason, was in extreme turmoil. When your mind is extremely turmoil, and that all the turmoil is created because of extreme selfishness, when you think too much of yourself, and then that the noise is created in the mind, and that noise filters the love which is already there in the heart. You don't have to cultivate, it is already there. That's why in Buddhism they say, very interesting, that they say that try to keep your mind calm. That's their meditation. They don't meditate on God. Through mindfulness, calming of the mind. And naturally the question comes, when my mind is calm, it is not reacting to any circumstances of life, then the many will be just criticizing, oh, that's a state of inertness. It's like a cabbage. You just put a knife in the cabbage, it doesn't react. So through all those mindfulness, am I to become something like as inert like a cabbage? So in Buddhism they say, you practice, you will find. What you will find? That with the calmness, with reasoning you won't understand. With the calmness, you will find that love, metta, this love, loving compassion, that starts welling up from your heart. you become extremely loving. That's the way we have been made by God. When God created this creation, He created along with the sense of interbeing. That is something within us. Even in the modern biology, they say our genes are altruistic. It is the noise of the mind which filters it out. If you can calm the mind, know it for certain, the love which is intrinsic, that is bound to find expression through your life. So in religion, the same thing, this theory applies. That instead of resorting to too much of argument, too much of holier than thou attitude, my way of thinking is right, yours is wrong, and creating extreme turmoil in the world, the religion which was supposed to be the instrument of love and well-being of all, love and sympathy for all, at last has got converted into what? You will find is the most devilish thing it has converted into. So much of hatred. Why it has happened? Because you will find in the name of religion, everyone is sitting in his own fool's paradise thinking, my way of thinking is correct. My way of thinking is something which is taking me near to God. Everything else, everyone else is going to the hell, going to the dogs. And that's how this tremendous hatred has developed, which is filtering out the love which is already in our heart. So instead of going through all those judgments and everything, if I would have tried to cultivate devotion by calming the mind, the love which generates, that has to be sublimated as the love for the God. That love is bound to come. Now just you have to channelize that love so that it gets converted into devotion. So that's the thing. So don't unnecessarily confuse your mind with all sorts of arguments and reasoning. Calm it down, feel the love, and then channelize that love to the divine. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying in very simple words. You get clear water if you drink from the surface of a pool, but put your hand deeper and stir the water. It becomes muddy. So the cleanliness of the water, which is its innate quality, the water by itself is pure. If the impurity is something extrinsic, you have to add. So here they are saying, if you stir the mind, that extrinsic impurities come and so-called makes the innately pure water something muddy. So it has lost its as if its real nature. So that's why he's saying don't unnecessarily agitate it. Therefore pray to God for devotion, the love which is within you. Let that find expression through your life. Don't unnecessarily through argument create the mud, the murk, then make your mind murky. So that's the thing Sri Ramakrishna is indicating. That after all, the spiritual life is to develop that love for the divine and totally transmute your personality, overhaul your personality, cleanse your personality, so that you become the instrument of love. If religion makes you an instrument of hate, what type of religion it is? You say God is all love, and at last, through our life, what we find is expression of hatred and hatred alone. If this is the thing which produces, if religion is the thing which produces such hatred, denounce such God. What's the need of such God? If they say that you go to the hell, you just reply, I really have to go to the hell, because the heaven where you stay, that is not the place for me. I think hell will be a better place. The heaven which you speak of by following your way, if it creates such turmoil, such disturbance, so much of confrontation, I don't need it. So that's the idea. They try to develop the devotion, the love which is already innate within our heart. Cleanse the mind, let it find expression. And then you will start raising yourself in spirituality. So, behind Dhruva's devotion, now Sri Ramakrishna is giving an example, that we are speaking of the sublimation, that's wonderful sublimation we will be speaking of through some examples. That behind Dhruva's devotion there was desire. He practiced austerities to gain his father's kingdom. But Prahlada's love for God was motiveless, a love that sought no return. So this is a very interesting thing that Swami Vivekananda is saying, that for most of us, what's devotion is a mercenary attitude. Very nicely he's saying that for most of us, God is just the means, world is the end. I don't want God. I go and pray to God. For what? For these all worldly things. I want wealth, I want position in life, I want good relations. These are the things I want. I want the world. God is just the means. By praying, I get this end. That is not devotion, it is sheer materialism. So, that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying, that Dhruva's devotion. The Dhruva also, to get the kingdom, he started praying to the divine. But very interesting, once he had the vision of the divine, immediately all his desires fell off. He wanted pure love. In Bhagavatam, very nicely it has been described that seeing God as a small child, this was full of devotion, overwhelming devotion, and he wanted to express the devotion through words, but being a small child, he couldn't express. There was tremendous devotion, and God compassionately just touched his conch in his throat, and immediately all the stotras, all the hymns in the praise of God as a loving expression of his devotion, that started coming out. So what it speaks, that all the desires fell off the moment he had the vision of the divine. What it speaks of, in the words of Sri Ramakrishna, that he is a fool who digs a well on the bank of the Ganges. Will anyone dig a well in the bank of the Ganges? You are near the source of water. Why should you dig a well on the bank of Ganges? So the God who is the source of all entire existence, all wealth, opulence, everything, he is the source of that. When you get him, can you ever ask for some trivial things? As we find that when Sri Ramakrishna was in Dakshineshwar as a priest, one day it so happened that there's all the jewelries, all the ornaments and the jewelries of this Radha Madhav. In the Radha Madhavji's temple, the jewelries were stolen. And Mathur, the proprietor of that shrine, he started saying, "Oh God, you are powerless. The thief came and stole the wealth and you could do nothing. What power do you have?" Sri Ramakrishna overheard that. What he told in reply was interesting. He told, "Oh, don't be so mean, O Mathur, that all these ornaments are something valuable for you. The God from whom the entire universe came, what to speak of those few wealth, a few ornaments. The entire universe, which is the expression of the divine, all wealth is his. Is he bothered about those few ornaments which you have offered to him?" So that's the idea. All things become trivial when you really develop that love for divine, who is the source of the entire existence. So that's how Dhruva's love was sublimated to the pure love of the divine. But Prahlada was born with that pure love. And we find that the definition of devotion given by Prahlada in Vishnu Purana is wonderful. What he's saying? That what actually is devotion? It is nothing but sublimation. What is the sublimation? Ya priti avivekana vishayeshu anapayini tvam anusmarata sa me hridayat ma apasarpatu. That what type of devotion I should have for you? What type of devotion? That the so-called indiscriminate people, the worldly people, the tremendous inordinate love that which have for the material objects of the senses, let that same type of love be for you. My love should be of that intensity, the way the worldly people feel for the sense objects. So the same thing as Sri Ramakrishna very nicely used to say in some other context, that when will you realize God? Teen tan ek hole Bhagavan love. 3 types of most intense love. When you combine them and then try to imagine the tremendous intensity of love, when you have that, then you are sure to have the vision of the divine. What are those 3 most intense love in our human life we experience? The mother's love for the child, that's one. A miserly person's love for the wealth, the second. And a chaste wife's love for the husband, the third. This 3 intense love, you combine. That intensity of love, if you have for the divine, know it for certain, you are going to see God. So that's the thing which Prahlada had. That's what is expressed through his prayer. That the love which the worldly people have for the world, let that same love I have for you. And then only that love can take you to the realization of the divine. And that's the pure love. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating through his words. That Prahlada's love for God was motiveless, a love that sought no return. A devotee, how can one realize God, Master? Through that kind of love, but one must force one's demand on God. One should be able to say, O God, will thou not reveal thyself to me? I will cut my throat with a knife. This is tamas of bhakti. Very interesting. Tamas of bhakti. Just now, today, the discussion started with that. That you need not have to renounce your gunas, the prepondering gunas. Each and every person has certain tendencies. You don't have to renounce and become sattvic, then only you can become spiritual. Whatever may be your tendencies, with that, if you have intense love for the divine, you can attain God. Now, in Bhagavad Gita, we will find in the 17th chapter, where that's the Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga. It starts with that wonderful idea that Arjuna asks Bhagavan Krishna that ye shastra vidhim utsrijya yajante shraddhayanita. That there are many who have tremendous devotion. With devotion, they try to worship God, but they transgress the do's and don'ts mentioned in the scriptures, the commandments of the scripture. Just out of their liking, whatever temperament, they worship in their own way. Teshang nishtha tuka Krishna sattva maha rajas tamas. What type of nishtha it is? It is sattva, rajas or tamas. What type of nishtha? And the entire chapter is an answer to that question, where Bhagavan describes what is sattvic, what is rajasic, what is tamasic in all our day-to-day activities, even in devotion. And there he do say that the sattvic temperament takes us to spiritual enlightenment, while the tamasic and rajasic may lead to disintegration. But in the tantras we will find the idea is that no, even the tamasic and the rajasic is good. If you can have an intense love for the divine with all those tendencies, you can still achieve God. Even we will find in the Bhagavatam that idea is there, that yena tena prakarena Krishne mano niveshayat. That somehow you have to fix your mind in God. Don't be indifferent to Him. You have to constantly think of Him, and that will take you to the liberation. Yena tena prakarena. Just as a thief never thinks that what is the rightful way of stealing. So anyway I have to steal it to get the wealth. So yena tena prakarena means that in whatever way. On what context it is saying that? That we find there's a nice story that the two security guard of Vishnu. In the Vishnu Loka, they were just doing the duty when the 4 Kumaras came to meet Vishnu. And this security, seeing them to be like small children without any clothes, never realized who they really are and ignored them. And they were having such intense desire to meet the Lord, and they being resisted, they immediately cursed this 2 security, that you will have to take birth on, you have to descend on the earth and take birth as a mortal being. And now they realize that most probably they have transgressed, they have disobeyed a very, very enlightened soul. By the time Vishnu himself came to the picture, and after coming to know what has happened, he told, see, these are the 4 Kumaras, very powerful. Even I cannot simply nullify their curse. It has to materialize. But I can give you a condition, that if you are born on earth as my devotee, you have to take 7 births. And if you are born as my enemy, then only 3 births. What it speaks of? See, hatred is not opposite of love. This opposite of love, that is not hatred. Because hatred, love speaks of attraction. Hatred also speaks of attraction. How? One whom you love, you think of him all the time. One whom you hate, most probably more intensely you think of that person all the time. So opposite of love is not hatred. Opposite of love is indifference. I am indifferent. I am not in any way have any sort of sense of belonging to him. Just when I am passing by the road, a passerby passes by me, I am indifferent. I have no feeling for him. So don't be indifferent. If you cannot love God, hate. Whether hate is tremendously intense, that make you think of the object of love more intensely. And that's why in 3 births you will be liberated. So that's the idea. Yena tena prakarena. If you are tamasic, where the tamasic tendency should be directed to the devotion of the God. And that can take you to the liberation. When Sri Ramakrishna is speaking these words, he is speaking from his own experience. The first realization of the divine came by this type of tamasic bhakti, you can say. How? When Sri Ramakrishna was frustrated, he had a tremendous yearning for the divine, and when he was not having any realization, at last, one day in the mother's shrine, in the Bhavatarini's shrine in Dakshineshwar, that he took the sword of the mother and he was about to kill himself, cut his own throat, by saying that what's the use of that life in which I cannot have your vision. So that desperation, tremendous desperation, when he was about to cut his own throat, suddenly that took him to that flash of realization. He fell on the ground, and that for the first divine realization came from that state. So you will find most probably in the scriptures, nowhere it's mentioned that you in your urge for devotion have an attempt for suicide. It's not mentioned. But what Sri Ramakrishna is indicating, that yearning is very important. What you are doing is not important. If the tremendous yearning is there, whatever may be your temperament, that can take you to the realization of the divine. So that's why, though it is tamasic, it's not bad, if that it is accompanied with a tremendous yearning for the divine. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying through these words. What he's saying? Through that kind of love. But one must, for that, can one realize God? Yes, when you have tremendous yearning. But one must have force, but one must force one's demand on God. The tremendous, just a very small child, when he has something, he wants intensely something, the way he almost forces out his object of desire from his mother, the same way you must have force one's one's demand on God. One should be able to say, God, thou will thou not reveal thyself to me? I will cut my throat with a knife. This is the tamas of bhakti. So that's the idea. So again the devotee asks, can one see God? The master, yes, surely. One can see both aspects of God, God with form and without form. One can see God with form, the embodiment of spirit. Again, God can be directly perceived in a man with a tangible form. So this inclusiveness is wonderful, that with form, without form, both are equally valid spiritual realization. What's the idea behind it? Again, we will take up in the next class, that what this realization of God with form and without form means. That both are spiritual realizations, that what it actually indicates. So with this, we will start our discussion again in the next class. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.